Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name again is Jeffrey Davis. And our next guest via the fabulous Mark Z is Betsy Millane, realtor, also author from what I know. Hi, Betsy.
Hello, how are you, Jeffrey?
Fine, thank you. What do you want to talk about first? Your business or your book or both?
I got to tell you, I can talk about either, but I'll start with the book because that's what my background is all about. My agent said that to do videos and things, I needed some Dutch stuff. So anyway, this is the book that I wrote based on my family's experiences in the Dutch underground during World War II. They
Wow.
talked about the war when I saw them during my junior year abroad as if it had just ended a month ago. And I captured some amazing stories, but couldn't make a total book of it until I really sat down and then started to incorporate other firsthand accounts. But they risked their lives daily. I stood in the closet where they hid the Jews. My uncle was kind of a double agent. He got his secrets from the Germans and passed them on to the Allies every night via radio. And my great aunt was an artist, and she would go to the transports where they were transporting the Jews out of Holland and paint in code all the information she could gather about the transports, because they didn't know about the concentration camps. They thought they were just being taken, away, relocated. And in something like this, she would code how many trains were gone, whether they were cattle or passenger cars, how many people she could count up, if there was violence. She hid that and marked it with a cake of paint and was actually captured doing that and sent to a concentration camp herself.
Did she live out the war or no?
Yes.
You got me on the story now.
That's you know what? I have to say that because that's a painting she gave to me after the war.
And are there hidden messages in that painting?
I don't believe there are. No, those paintings were disposable, and I'm sure that they're long gone, although I would treasure one if I got it. So that's my deal behind the book. I was an English major in college, and I think every English major feels they've got a book in them. But writing the book was one thing, getting it published was another.
I know. It's
And
tough.
I was determined on an agent and a publisher. I wanted the whole shebang. And after every rejection, I redid the book. And actually, here's the funny thing. My agent just kept plugging. He believed in the story. But I figured I had the best of the best critiquing my book, so I'd better listen. And one thing they said is, we don't feel close enough to the protagonists. So I invented a love life and a sex life. Now, when my 92-year-old mother found out that's what it took to get published, she said, well, you have to change the names. And I said, why? She said, we have relatives in Holland. They would be scandalized and very unhappy to think that you were imagining their sex lives. So I did change the names to protect the innocent, I guess.
Maybe the story's better than reality, obviously.
It's a darn good story. I worked very hard on it, and I love it.
Well, did you spend time with her? And how would you describe her before you wrote the book? Your feelings about her, what you learned from her?
Are you talking about my aunt or my mother?
Your aunt, not your mother. Sorry.
I never met the aunt who painted the trains. She moved to Paris to be an artist, but I did meet the aunt and spend time with her about 3 times during that junior year abroad. I stood in the closet where they hid the Jews. She gave me jewelry with warm hands, not cold. She was amazing. My uncle, who I understood had, double-crossed the Germans often enough, had to get out of Holland before they settled scores. And he lived here in the States, and I never met him. But I did get their stories. And at one point, an uncle turned to me and he held up his wrists and he said, in our blood, we're Germans, because they moved there around the time of the First World War and maybe before. But he said, but in our hearts, we're Dutchmen. And they all had a hand in resisting the Germans.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. And how are you selling the book?
Bloodhound Books, it was published by them. Open Road Media is the one who distributes it here in the States. So it's available everywhere and anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Did it interfere at all with your day job?
No, actually, I needed a place to go with my head at one point. And so in the downtimes, I would work on the book. And it was a beautiful thing to do. It was a very constructive thing to do. I was getting a divorce at the time when I created it. Real estate, you are either super busy or you're just wondering where your next deal is going to come from. But here's a story about real estate and me. I grew up in a real estate family. My grandfather started out long, long time ago before there were realtors, but he became a land expert, trading land, clearing land, valuing land. My father followed him into it, initially in residential and then in commercial. But when he was doing residential, he was really good at it and he worked very hard at it. One Saturday morning in Michigan, where I grew up, cold Saturday morning in December, I got up looking for cereal and cartoons. My father was all set to go with his briefcase and his beret on and warm coat, and the phone rang. And he answered it and he said, "I am so sorry to hear it. Keep moving in. Don't worry, I'll take care of it." Then he picked up the yellow pages, thumbed through, of course, dating myself there, called a number and he said, Bob, this is John Nadeau, and I need for you to do me a huge favor. I'm calling in every favor you feel you might owe me. I know everybody is calling and crying for heat today, but I need you to get over to this address with a furnace. He listened for a minute. He said, "Nope, you've just got to get over there with a furnace. Trust me." And he said, "But send the bill to me." So he put down the phone, and my mother, I was one of 6. My mother has the latest on her hip saying, "What are you doing giving away a furnace? We need one ourselves." He said, "You know the house I closed on yesterday?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we'd done a walkthrough. Everything was in order." He said, "The people went to move in this morning and gosh, it was cold." And they tried the thermostat and nothing happened. They investigated. The seller took the furnace. He said, "Look, I've got a book of business to get to. I can't spend time hunting down the seller or the attorneys or anybody. I've got to focus on the business I have at hand." And he looked at me and he said, "They've got kids and I've got to sleep nights." And with that, he went to work. And, when I took up the real estate mantle, I remember that every day because you've got to do what's right so that you can sleep nights. A lot of people don't, unfortunately, but I do. I've given away, things that perhaps other people would never consider, but I want to make the deal right. When I work with somebody, I'm going to make it right.
Very nice. And where do you like to do your real estate work? Is there a region?
Sweet spot is Metro West. But since all of my business is via referrals, I go where it takes me. I've done a fair amount of work in Quincy and know it well. I actually went out to Amherst to find a fellow a house at the beginning of COVID when he could work from home and had always dreamed of living there. It just all depends, but my sweet spot is Metro West. However, that said, people who feel that they want a house, say in Needham or Wellesley or Dover, find that they are priced out pretty quickly because inventory is so low at this point. So I find them houses in Canton, Dedham, Sharon. We explore other environs.
Wow, that's quite an exciting life you have. If somebody wants to get hold of you as a realtor or to find out about the book, and you should hold up the book again before you go, please tell us both.
Well, to get in touch with me, just to go to Betsy Millane at Gmail or Betsy Millane, just look me up. I'm with Gibson Sotheby's, a firm that I absolutely adore because they have the same values that my parents had in their real estate business. But so just look up Betsy Millane. I'm out there. But for the book, it's under Elizabeth Millane. I didn't want to confuse it with the with Betsy Millane and my real estate business. It's a dream come true to have written this. And when your dream comes true, you want to run with it. So I do talks all over, but under Elizabeth Millane. I had the idea when I went abroad that I would transform myself during that junior year abroad. So everyone knows me that went with me as Elizabeth. It failed. My parents would call and say, looking for Betsy Millane or Boodles Millane or something like that. And the word was out. But For this, I'm Elizabeth Millane.
Well, since the book has reality and fantasy, I'm assuming the reality is better than the fantasy in this book. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, and I wish you all the best of luck in both your endeavors. And remind everybody this is Radio Entrepreneurs.